You're welcome.
Okay. I would say it's almost 8:05, so I think we can get started. And maybe I can say a few words for introduction. But I guess they will be in German right now. So, hallo alle zusammen, herzlich willkommen. Ich freue mich, dass so viele den Weg hergefunden haben und genau Lust haben, mit uns zusammen ein bisschen Purim vorzufeiern. Danke nochmal an Jeremy, dass du das heute möglich gemacht hast und uns mit deinem Shiur etwas über die Hidden Story of Purim erzählen wirst. Und nochmal ganz wichtig zu Beginn, wir werden diese Veranstaltung aufzeichnen, sodass ihr euch die dann nochmal auf unserem YouTube-Account anschauen könnt. Für alle die damit ein Problem haben, Stummschaltung, genau, schaltet euch selbst stumm. Eure Kameras müsst ihr auch nicht unbedingt anhaben. Wir freuen uns natürlich aber immer, wenn wir ein paar Gesichter sehen können. Das macht es für uns und wahrscheinlich auch für Jeremy natürlich ein bisschen schöner. Genau, und dann würde ich sagen, Jeremy, the stage is yours.
Super. Erste, ich will gesagt, Entschuldigung für mein Deutsch. Meine Hoffnung ist, dass nächstes Jahr ich muss auf Deutsch die Shiur gibt, aber dieses Jahr, das ist nicht möglich für mich. Okay? Ja, genau. Super. Okay, my name is Jeremy. Mein Deutsch ist sehr schlecht. Aber meine Tochter hat perfekt Deutsch und ich muss Deutsch lernen für sie. So I am the Director of Jewish Learning is my new title at Base Berlin Hillel Deutschland. And it's really my pleasure to be here. I wonder if we could just go around. I love to get to know who's in the room. So if you can, we'll go around and we'll say, if you can say your name and where you are right now. I think that's always cool information. And also a time where you felt hidden. Okay, a time where you felt hidden. And this can be a serious question, or this can be a not serious question. I will start. My name is Jeremy. I'm in Berlin. And a time when I felt hidden was when in 2008, I spent 2 weeks at a very religious yeshiva in Israel. It suffice it to say, it was not a place that was particularly sympathetic to Barack Obama's campaign for presidency at the time. And I felt like I was hidden and like I couldn't talk about how I felt differently than most people. And so I pretended for like a week, and then the second week wasn't very good because I stopped pretending. But that first week, I really felt hidden in who I was in terms of my political ideology. So that's me. Maybe Walter, maybe you can start. Janis, maybe you can start.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sorry.
Hi guys, my name is Janis. Right now I'm in my room at my parents' house in Berlin. And a time I was hidden or I felt hidden was basically like in specific conversations about like Jewish topics where people like just unconsciously dropped like anti-Semitic stereotypes, and it was like, oh yeah, here I am. And then I had to like drop the bomb and basically like come out and tell them actually what they what bullshit they said. So that was not so funny time for me.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, Giannis. Also, like super relevant for what we're going to talk about. So thank you for sharing that. Joseph.
Yeah, hi. My name is Joseph. I'm joining from the city of Marburg in Hesse this evening. And when I felt hidden was last year, this time, when I was in the crowd of a Purim party in Göttingen, where I've met some of the guys I can see here. Yeah.
Thank you, Joseph. Nicolas.
Hey, everybody. I'm Nick. You can call me Nick. and I am right now in the city of Göttingen in my little apartment. And I feel kind of hidden right now. It's kind of weird. I'm new in the city, and I come from Colombia, and I was born in Colombia, and it's quite weird because I think there are much more Jews here in Germany, but I don't feel like I'm fitting right now. So it's kind of weird. It probably is Corona, or I don't know why, but I don't feel like I'm really fitting, and I feel hidden in some way. But
Wow. Thank you for sharing,
it's
Nicholas.
it's not that bad, but
No, it's powerful. It's powerful. It's powerful that you shared that. And it also like brings in energy to this space, because a part of what I want to talk about tonight is like, we're all hidden. So I really appreciate your honesty in sort of bringing that to the forefront. Thank you. Anna and Marvin.
Shalom, shalom. My name is Anna, and I am right now in Berlin. Even I want so much to be in Jerusalem, but not possible. Yes, the time where I felt hidden was actually often, somehow about my Jewish identity. I try not to be hidden with that, but when I remember, I think that was actually most of my situations in life. I was thinking, okay, should I say it? Should I not? And I know it's kind of, I try to be very honest with that sometimes, but I don't know, sometimes we just feel, I don't want to say it. So yeah, especially with I think Jewish identity, I feel sometimes like that.
Hi, I'm Marvin, and I'm obviously also in Berlin right now. And a time where I felt hidden was probably I grew up in a village, and I spent a lot of time in the woods, and there I felt really hidden, but in a good way. Like I love to be hidden in the woods.
Thank you, Anna and Marvin. And I think Marvin really brought up an important point there of like the dual nature of hiddenness, and I think the first 4 or 5 of us really talked about it as in kind of a negative way, and that like the suppressiveness of hiddenness. And there's also a warmth in hiddenness, and a comfort in hiddenness. And I think both exist here, and sort of just for us to take that in and think about like, how are both of these existing in concert with one another? And sometimes in opposition to one another. Okay, forgive me if I mispronounce it, but Nui?
Yes, it's correct. I actually thought of 2 things. I thought of this morning because I got anesthesia because they had to mirror my stomach. Oof. And I don't remember 5 hours of the day. So that still feels a bit strange. Because it's just gone. And then I also remember the first time I also just recently moved to Germany about a bit over a year ago. And I felt really hidden the first time. I met a lot of the people that are here now that are part of my Jewish student group, because I'm all from Göttingen as well. And I felt really hidden, but more because I was not showing myself, because I was so afraid of because I felt they wouldn't accept me because as a trans person, as a very political person, but it didn't turn out like that. It was really wonderful. So that was the second thing that I thought of.
Thank you, Nui. I appreciate that. Bella.
Hi, everyone. Right now I'm also in Göttingen, and I have to admit that my brain just doesn't work anymore today. I've been writing a lot and I have no idea. Maybe I'm just hidden within my brain the past weeks because I try to write things that I don't actually understand.
Thank you for your honesty, Bella. It's okay if you're not totally present now. That's a part of your hiddenness. You're not, to be hidden means you're not totally being seen. We're not going to totally see Bella right now tonight. That's great.
Perfect.
I mean, it's not great. It'd be better if we could see all of Bella, but that's okay. That's where you are. That's who you are. And that's great. So thank you. David.
Hi, Jeremy. Who I know, and now I know also all of you who have said who they are. I felt hidden. I've been thinking about to say, when last week I went to the caves south of Beit Shemesh, where Bar Kokhba and his crew are hiding during the revolt. And when we were like crawling through the very narrow caves, I also kind of felt like in hiding, because I was like, there was no sun and I had to like use a torch, and it was very much like sheltered, but also in hiding. And
wow.
Yeah, I'm in Jerusalem right now, for context. Yeah.
Thank you, David. I have amazing childhood memories from those caves, but I'll tell you more about that later. That'll come up later in therapy. Okay, Louisa.
Yes, I'm in a small village next to Dresden now at my parents' place, and it is also a reason where I'm feeling very hidden right now, because I spent the last years in Potsdam next to Berlin, and now I'm here in the small village, far away from any civilization and also from the Jewish community. So I'm feeling really hidden, because it's like I'm a stranger in this place, even when I grow up here. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Louisa. Paul.
Yeah, I'm in Hamburg right now. And a time when I felt hidden was probably 2 years ago, when I was blackout drunk in the bathroom of the Morashah party of Purim. And Janis cared for me and put me on a couch to sleep a bit. I felt pretty hidden. Also, David cared for me, but yeah.
Cool. Well, we can have another class on why drinking in moderation is also a Purim mitzvah. That perhaps is not the class for today. But I do see that. I also was like, you and we sort of touched on something of like, to not remember is to feel hidden, like this lack of full consciousness is a sense of hiddenness. So to what extent is the opposite of that raising our consciousness? How can that help us become unhidden? Cool. Avi.
Hi, I'm in Hamburg right now. And when I thought about a situation where I had to hide, I immediately thought about the game we used to play during Shabbatot at my aunt and uncle's house. Me and my brother and my cousins played hide and seek in the dark. So Verstecken im Dunkeln, it was the thing. And I loved it. And I thought about it right about when you said hide. So that's my story.
Cool. I love that. And that speaks to also kind of what Marvin was talking about. Like as a kid, like being hidden is kind of great because you're always being seen. You're like, you're so transparent when you're a child. Like I see my daughter and it's like, I know when she's playing a trick on me, and I know what you're doing. And so something about being hidden as a child is really thrilling. It's exciting. Cool. Thank you. Toma. You're muted, Toma.
Hi, I'm Toma, and I'm in Göttingen right now. And yeah, I like to go hiking in the Alps and the mountains. And always when I'm there, I feel a bit, hidden because the mountains are so big and I'm so small. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Toma. Jeremy. Nice name.
Thanks. I'm in Göttingen. I study here. And I feel hidden sometimes behind my accent, because the moment I speak, people think, okay, this guy is British. I know who he is and where he comes from. But then family history is more complicated than that. And everyone's a bit more of a mix than sometimes is apparent.
Yeah. I hear that, you know, it's funny because like people have so many first impressions about us, like just when they meet it, you know, people meet me and it's like, oh, he's got a beard, he's got a kippah. I know who this guy is. I know who this guy is. And the truth is I do it. I meet people and I make judgments. I don't want to, but I meet people and I make judgments. And I'm causing them to be hidden, which is like a whole other part of this Torah. And we're like gonna only hit on like 10% of these points, but like let's throw them out there and see what happens. Palina.
Hello, I'm Palina. I'm currently in Göttingen, and I don't really remember a situation where I felt hidden, but I kind of had to think about growing up. I'm not really was pretty religious, and my family was not really practicing Judaism. My father was Jewish, but he didn't pass it on to us. And I remember how he told us that we should better not tell other people that we have Jewish roots. And as a child, I don't really thought about it, but as I grow older, and I kind of thought something is missing and I want to find out more about it, and I can really understood why I had to hide this. And yeah, this is kind of thing I had to think about.
That's great, Poet. You're just like, I had to think about it. And meanwhile, my story predicts everything Jeremy's going to talk about in this class. So that's awesome. We're going to come back to your story because your story is actually also Esther's story. And there's a lot of stuff there, but this is great. We have Melanie. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here, but I can't turn on the video because my computer tends to crash today whenever I turn on the video. I've spent the whole day in video conferences and haven't seen a soul. So yeah, that's a great day. And that's
Is that how you feel hidden? Sorry.
Yeah. Yes, that's when I feel hidden. I feel hidden at the moment. I've spent my time, all of my days at home. I'm a teacher. I teach remotely and all the time, and I have a little daughter. She's 4.5, and she's also at home. So it's yeah.
Wow.
amuse the child and try to teach, and that's what I do all the time. I don't meet anybody, and I normally need people and need to talk and need contact, and at the moment it's like being in a black hole and just in a tunnel, and that's I really do feel hidden now.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Melanie. I really appreciate it.
Welcome.
Naomi.
Hey, I'm Naomi, and I'm right now in Stockholm. And I feel sometimes that I have to hide my Jewish identity too, especially if I meet new people. I always have to think about whether it would be smart to tell them about my religion. And yeah, this is what I thought when you asked us about it.
Yeah, thank you, Naomi. Ariel, you came a little late, but we're talking about our name, where we are right now, and a time we felt hidden.
Can you tell that again, please? Something fell off the table, so I didn't hear
No
it.
problem. What is your name? Where are you right now? And what is a time you felt hidden?
Okay, so my name is Ariel Gutmann, and I'm in Kiel right now. And when was the time? In what sense hidden?
We've had a lot of senses. What does it mean to you?
I don't know, maybe being alone. I've never asked myself that question, to be honest. When I was hidden, I guess there are certain times in lockdown, like the beginning of the lockdown, where you didn't had like much contact to anyone, but at the end you kind of got a solution doing it via your phone or via the internet or via Zoom maybe too. So it kind of all went right at the end.
Cool. I want everybody to like take a second to appreciate everyone sharing so openly here. This was like really special. I know it took a long time, but actually what you have to say is probably more interesting, if not more interesting than what I have to say. So I really appreciate all of you for sharing that. That was really cool. I have to add one other thing. I feel hidden because like right now I'm in like the garderobe of our apartment because there's just like crying children in every other part of the apartment. They're just like all over. They're spreading, and so I'm like hidden in a little corner of our apartment. I'm going to send a link in the chat to a source sheet I made, but I'm also going to share my screen. But I have to say something really important, which is even though I'm going to share my screen, I really want to hear from you. There's a couple people in this room who know that I'd like love to be interrupted by your thoughts and ideas. So I'm going to rely on all of you. Just interrupt me. If you'd rather like use the chat function and be like, what about this? I don't understand what you're saying. Then like, that's fine too. But I'm like totally down to be interrupted. It's great. Like I want to hear myself speak as little as possible, even though like that's certainly not exactly what's going to happen. Cool. Any questions before we jump in? Okay. I'm sharing my screen, and here we have the hidden story of Purim. Yeah, I want to start off by this piece by Rabbi Yael Rydberg, who I don't know, but I read this like 3 years ago on like this website, My Jewish Learning. It's a great website. There's like lots of stuff there. It was actually from My Jewish Learning. I read it on, it was linked in like a Jewish themed newsletter that I subscribe to called Jewish Insider. I'm not an insider, I'm an outsider, but it was linked in that newsletter and I read it. And it really struck with me in thinking about the themes of the holiday of Purim. So, Jeremy, just because you're first on my screen at the moment, would you mind reading from Rabbi Yael Rydberg?
Purim then is about searching below the surface, the invitation to pierce through randomness, vulgarity, and violence in order to uncover meaning and God's presence. The play back and forth between these ideas is constant in the text. Vashti refuses to reveal her beauty to the king's feasting guests. Esther's Jewish identity is hidden from the king. Haman hides his true plan for the Jews. King I can't pronounce it.
Achashverosh
is in the dark about the plot to kill the Jews. And finally, the character of God is hidden in the text.
Okay, I love this. Like, first off, we're going to talk about Purim tonight. Spoiler alert, if you didn't know this, we're going to talk about Purim tonight. I love this text. I love this whole, this piece she wrote, because she's like, the whole Purim story is actually about hiddenness and revealingness. Okay? That's the entire story. Every other thing in the story is just sort of an addendum, is sort of attached to this idea. This is the main back and forth. We're hidden, we're revealed. We're hidden, we're revealed. We're hidden, we're revealed. And like so many of these stories that we talked about are about this concept as well. Even the game hide and seek is about being hidden so that you can be found. We're hidden so that we can be found. Okay? And so many of you share this idea of hiding these things. And what we're going to talk about tonight is how do we take these things that we're hiding about ourselves and allow ourselves to be found. Okay? And that's really what the Purim story is all about. That's what we're talking about here. And the most important point, the thing that I cannot stress enough, because maybe not everybody knows this, God's name appears 0 times in the Purim story. 0 times. It is the only book of the Bible where God's name never appears. It is the only book of the Bible. I'm like saying that and I'm like, is that true? I'm like 98% sure it is the only book of the Bible in which God's name does not appear. And it's certainly the only Jewish holiday where God's name isn't a part of the equation. This is not a miracle of God. This story is not about God. This story is about us. God's there. God's always there. But he's hidden. She's hidden. God is hidden. God's pronoun is God. God is hidden. Okay? Any questions before we get into the story? We're going to get into some of the meat of the story now. Okay? We're going to jump in and read from the book of Esther a little bit, little preview for tomorrow night. But before that, does anyone have any question about this hiddenness? Okay, so I'm going to sum up a little bit of the Purim story as we go along. Okay, I'm going to talk really, really fast. Unnecessarily. I'm going to slow myself down. I'm going to talk at a normal pace. The story begins. There's this king, Achashverosh, which is a ridiculous name. And no one can, try and say it 10 times. Try and just say Achashverosh, Achashverosh, Achashverosh. You can't do it. It's not going to happen. So Achashverosh is this king. He's the king of Persia. And he's got this queen, Vashti. And he says, Vashti, come dance for me. And the commentators say, actually he said, come appear before me. And the Jewish commentators say, the rabbis in the Midrash and the Talmud, they say, oh, he demanded that she come dance naked before him. And Vashti says, no, I'm not going to do that. And actually Vashti is exiled. And Vashti was the queen. She was the queen. She was also sort of the head of the harem. What constituted a queen in the days of these Persian rulers 2,500 years ago is pretty uncomfortable within our modern sensibilities. But the king's I need a new queen. I need some new women. So they do this nationwide contest for new women. And that's where our story is going to pick up because, whoa, that's not what I wanted to do. That's where our story picks up. Because we're going to meet, sort of, spoiler alert, the person who's going to win this contest. And we're going to meet her and her relative Mordechai. So can someone read Esther chapter 2, verses 5 through 7? Nui, maybe you can read? Is that possible? Sorry, I don't mean to put people on the spot. I'm so sorry. Nuri, why don't we come back to you in the next one? Does that sound good? We can't hear you. I'm sorry. Okay, David, go ahead. Nui, we'll come back to you on the next one.
In the fortress Shushan lived a Jew by the name of Mordechai, son of Yair, son of Shimei, son of Kish, a Benjamite. Kish had been exiled from Jerusalem in the group that was carried into exile along with King Yechoniah of Judah, which had been driven into exile by King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. He was a foster father to Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The maiden was shapely and beautiful, and when her father and mother died, Mordechai adopted her as his own daughter.
Okay, so we have this person, Esther, except that's not her real name. What's her real name? Her real name's Hadassah. What's up with that? Why is there one name that's Mordechai? Why Mordechai just has one name and Hadassah / Esther has 2 names? What's going on there? It's weird. It's weird to have 2 names. There aren't a lot of people in the Bible who are referred to as having 2 names. Now, my teacher, Rabbi Daniel Landis, has a simple answer for it. He says Mordechai sounds a lot like Marduk, who was which was the name of a Persian god. And Esther is also a Persian name. These 2 people have regular names. But Esther's real name was Hadass. That was her Jewish name. Hadassah is a beautiful name. Myrtle. It's the branch. We have it in the Bible. It's the branch we shake. It's a beautiful name. It's a Jewish name. Mordechai and Esther. Today, Mordechai and Esther are Jewish names. Today, you and I know a lot of Jewish Mordechais and Esthers.
But so why is Esther only is Hadassah just known as Esther, not by her real Jewish name?
Why do you think?
She was hiding her name.
Yeah. I think she's hiding her name. And we're going to see that a little bit more in a second. We're going to see in a second, like, oh, she was hiding her name. She was really hiding her name. She didn't want people. And by the way, like, Jeremy is not a, like, I mean, it's a Jewish name, but it's not a Jewish name. You know what I mean? It's like, maybe you know a lot of Jeremys who are Jewish, but my name isn't Jeremy, it's Yaakov. Yaakov is my grandfather's name, who I'm named after. He was named after his great-grandfather. Yaakov is my name, but like, I don't go by Yaakov. A lot of the time we're wearing one name while inside of us we're holding another. And in fact, Esther, oh, thank you, David, Yaakov and Israel. But what's interesting about Yaakov and Israel, David? Yes, David is saying, oh, but what about in the Bible? You've got this guy, Yaakov, Jacob, and he also has the name Israel. But he was given Israel later. He was given Israel later. And he was given Israel by God. We're introduced to this character, and it's like, it's Hadassah. I mean, she goes by Esther, though, so don't say anything. Don't tell anyone who she really is. Okay, let's keep reading the story, and we're going to talk a little bit more about how it might be hidden. Nui, are you ready? Are you ready to rock and roll? All right, Nui, you're up.
The maiden, is that where we left off? No.
No, hold on.
No.
Let me, I think my screen sharing isn't
Scroll a bit.
well.
No, wait, I find it in the document. The king loved Esther. That's where we are, right?
Yep.
The king loved Esther more than all the other women. She won his grace and favor more than all the virgins. So he set a royal diadem on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. The king gave a great banquet for all his officials and courtiers, the banquet of Esther. He proclaimed a remission of taxes for the provinces and distributed gifts as befits a king. When the virgins were assembled a second time, Mordecai sat in the palace gate. But Esther still did not reveal her kindred or her people, as Mordecai had instructed her. For Esther obeyed Mordecai's bidding, and she had done when she was under his tutelage. What does that mean? The
Tutelage, under his teaching, under being raised by him. Okay, this is a hugely important moment. I have to stop sharing my screen because we have to see each other. This is a huge moment, people. Okay? Esther becomes queen. This nice Jewish girl, she becomes queen. And Mordecai says, don't tell anyone who you really are. Paulina, this is your story. This is your story, right? Don't tell anyone who you are. And by the way, like I say, Paulina, this is your story, but this is so many of our stories. You know, I remember as a kid, you know, my grandma being like, take your kippah off. You know, it's in us. Yeah, go ahead, Paulina.
There, I have a story to tell. Like I said, my father was not really Jewish, but I can remember. I mean, he was Jewish, but he didn't practice it. But I remember he was an engineer, and he was pretty high on his position, and he kept like building his career. And at a certain point, the people found out that he was Jewish, actually, and then they said, yeah, I mean, you do a great job, but we can't let a Jew do our job, or like a Jewish person be the boss of people. And at this point, he realized that it's not, for him personally, it's not intelligent kind of to tell people what's your religion, especially if you're Jewish.
100%. And like your father's experience, from the story, it sounds like your father was from the Soviet Union.
Yes,
maybe?
exactly. Yeah. He was from Ukraine. Yeah.
Yeah. Я его понимаю. It's like this was the story there. You know, people change their passport, which is funny because today many of these people are like, no, I swear they changed the passport. But you know, he changed the passport. People changed the passport. People didn't want to be seen for these things because it meant that you were going to have a harder life. We're living in an amazing time in history where, like, overall, it's like pretty good to be a Jew. Okay. Are there problems? Absolutely. I am not ignoring anti-Semitism in the world. It certainly exists. But in the scope of Jewish history, we're living in a good moment. Okay? We're living in a good moment, which is good. Let's just sit and appreciate that. And let's appreciate that as little as a generation ago, we still had to hide. We still had to deeply, deeply hide. We still hide today. We still hide today. You ever notice how rare it is for anything Jewish in Germany to take place in public without lots of police present? I'm not questioning these practices, but we're sometimes hiding in plain sight. Sometimes we're hiding and we're still there. Okay. Any questions or thoughts before we keep going? Okay, we're going to keep going. Let's do it. Okay, so there's this amazing text. There's this amazing text that I'm going to tell everybody, which is from the Talmud in Chulin. Now, Chulin is actually all about like kashrut. What animals are kosher? What animals aren't kosher? How do you do this? Yada, yada, yada. But there's this line, it's a total aside. There's this whole section in Chulin, in this section of the Talmud. They're like, where are all these other things indicated in the Torah, in the 5 books of Moses? The rabbis come up with this theory. Anything that is mentioned in the Hebrew Bible is referenced gently in the 5 books of Moses. And they say, where is Esther, the book of Esther, indicated in the Torah? And it's indicated in the verse, Va'anochi hester astir, and I will surely hide my face. Va'anochi hester astir. And this is a really important point because Esther, the name Esther, is tied to the root of the word seter or satar or whatever, which means hidden. The name Esther means I will hide. I will hide myself. That's what her name is. This is a story about a woman who is hiding herself. And in fact, what the rabbis tell us is when God says this, Va'anochi hester astir, God is telling us, I'm hiding in this story too. Esther is hiding herself, and I'm hiding myself too. It's like a really intense concept. What do you mean God is hiding? What does that mean? We're going to talk about that, and we're going to hear from some people smarter than myself. But first, I want to hear what you have to say. David Shapiro, are you raising your hand? No, it's just up. Okay. Does anyone have anything they want to say before we're going to look at 3 thinkers and what they think about this idea that God is hiding, that Esther is hiding, that everyone's hiding in this story. Actually, they're going to talk about why God is hiding. We're going to talk about why God is hiding in this story. Why is God hiding in this story? The first person we're going to look at is Rebbi Nachman of Breslov or Bratslav. If you've ever been to Uman, don't go. That's all I'll say. I went to Uman once. It almost made me give up Judaism. That's a class for another time. Yes, Anna.
Yeah, I just had like a general question to hide. So if someone is hiding, how can you say that it is there? Because you can't see it, right? So how can we know, or how can we discover something hidden when we can't see it?
I love what you're saying, because what you're touching on is like, how can we say God is hiding? Isn't God always hiding? Is I think kind of what you're asking. Like, we never see God. What's different about the Purim story that God is hiding? Like, yeah, we can't see. Does that mean God isn't there? Does that mean God isn't there? It's also, I gotta be honest, it kind of feels like God is hiding today. I didn't see God today. God didn't write me an email. He didn't like any of my tweets. I had great tweets today, and God did not like any of them. There's even a Twitter account, God. He also didn't like many of my tweets. Yeah. What does it mean for God to be hidden?
Maybe it's something like, even if you have your religion, and even if it gives you strength, you have to take initiative, and you have to take things in your hand and actually do it. And God can only give you kind of strength, but you have to be active. So maybe there's where he's hidden in our actions.
So, Paulina, you have to get out of my head, because that's pretty much what Levi Yitzchak Berditchev is going to say, which is great. We're going to come to him. So Levi Yitzchak stole your ideas. I'm sorry about that. He's been dead for 200 years. Otherwise, we could have a German lawyer write him a nice letter. But you are 100% on track, I think, with what you're saying. It's a very, very thoughtful idea. God's hidden because maybe it's up to us. Yeah, Melanie.
Sorry. I think you can only be hidden if you do have something that is worth hiding. I mean, if there's nothing, it cannot hide, or the person cannot hide. Only if there's something, it can be hidden. Well, not really it is worth hiding, but something has to exist to be hidden. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. Sorry, I've spent the day at the computer. It's if it sounds weird, but
it doesn't sound weird at all to me. It sounds really good to me. It's like actually a part of God's hidingness. My apologies if I'm. Did you have more you wanted to say? I can't see you, so I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I mean, it's like, I think how I feel at the moment, and there is this urge and need to meet people, to talk to people, and that's why I feel hidden. If it wasn't there, I wouldn't feel hidden. I would be quite content, and yeah, I would use another word. And if we use the word hidden, to hide in that context in the Torah, I think it has to mean something.
I love that, because actually what I hear you as saying is like, to experience God's hiddenness is also to experience God's existence.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. My dad also always says, if you're angry at God, it means you're in a relationship with God. And actually, if you're angry with your partner, it means you're in a relationship with them. It's when you stop yelling at each other.
I tell her.
Yeah, that you have to be more concerned, I think. Nui, go ahead.
I also wondered how this is meant in the way that God has taken the decision to hide from us, or that God is hidden because we don't see God. Like, which direction does it go, or does it go in two ways? I think this is also not really clear or very open in the way it is worded.
Is God hidden, or are we not noticing God?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How many things are right there and we just think they're hidden?
Maybe because it says it twice, like Esther, Esther. So maybe it's both.
There's this, like, one of my favorite pieces of Torah is there's this idea in Chassidut, and actually in Kabbalah, even Shuvu alai v'ashuvu alachem, return to me and I will return to you. First we have to go to God, and then God comes to us. And here, maybe what it's saying, sort of along the lines of what Nui and David were saying, is we stopped seeing God, so God hid God's self from us. Okay, let's look at Rebbi Nachman, because Rebbi Nachman he's going to do a small tweak. He heard what Nui and David had to say, but Rebbi Nachman is going to do a small tweak on that. Anna, can you read for us what Rebbi Nachman has to say? This is from Likutei Moharan, which is the great work of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov.
Sure. This is analogous to I will haste astir, thoroughly hide. That is, I will conceal the concealment, so that they will be completely oblivious to the fact that God is hidden. As a result, he will certainly not be able to find him, since he is completely unaware of the need to look for him. He is completely oblivious of the fact that God is hidden from him, because the concealment itself is concealed from him, as explained above.
This is, I think, really in line with what David and we were saying. They don't even know God is hidden. We're like so wrapped up in our own stuff, we don't even know God is hidden. It's like, were you ever in a situation where like a friend of yours left the country, left school, left somewhere, and you didn't even notice until way later? And it's like, oh, I wasn't even paying attention. I didn't even know you were gone. I didn't even know you were having a hard time. Are we in tune enough to the people around us? Are we in tune enough to God to know when God is hiding? And that's a part of the test of the Purim story. The Purim story is in so many ways, it's a story about this guy Mordechai, okay? And by the way, Mordechai, we tell this story of Mordechai, he was a poor Jew, yada, yada. Mordechai actually, from the context of the story, seems like he was a powerful person in the Persian Empire. According to some midrashes, he was a general. According to other stuff, he was like this rich landowner, whatever, okay? Mordechai was a powerful guy. And in fact, the rabbis of the Talmud don't love Mordechai. Let me be clear. Mordechai is not the hero of this story. Esther is. Mordechai is not the hero of this story. Mordechai is like a classic, I'm just living my life kind of Jew. Mordechai told Esther to hide, because Mordechai doesn't even realize God is hidden. Mordechai doesn't even realize. Yeah, David.
I very often lose things, and sometimes it even goes so far that I don't know I lost them. So in effect, I don't know they're hidden, right? The hiddenness is hidden from me. So when I do find them, when I do stumble across them half a year later, I'm like, whoa, I actually have this thing. That's so cool. And I think we can have a similar experience with God, where we are oblivious, but then when we actually encounter God, it's all much better.
And by the way, we will. I agree with you 100%, and I think we will I think that's the Purim story. I think you and Paulina are ruining my class, which is great, but it's like, that's the Purim story. Okay, Nui, your hand is raised, but I think it might be lingering from last time. Okay, I will lower it for you. Okay. I want to go along because I want to read the Kedushat Levi, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak and Berdichev, because Rabbi Levi Yitzchak is going to talk about miracles. Okay? Miracles and sort of the miracles that God does and the miracles that are a little more hidden. So, Nicholas, maybe you can read.
Okay. No, because there are hidden miracles and there are revealed. Okay, too big. 1 sec.
Okay, better? Is that better?
I can't. Okay. Okay. So, no, because there are hidden miracles and there are revealed miracles. Revealed miracles like the ones done for our ancestors in Egypt, like the 10 plagues and the splitting of the Red Sea, that are breaks with nature and all see as miracles. And there are hidden miracles like in the days of Esther and Mordechai, as it is in nature that in the beginning, the king raised Haman and then loved his wife and killed his friend because of his wife. And also the miracle mentioned in the prayer of Al-Hasanim, of delivering the many into the hands of the few.
This is great. This is a beautiful thing. The Kedushat Levi is saying there are hidden miracles and there are revealed miracles. There's two types of miracles in the world. There are obvious miracles. The sea split, okay? If I saw the sea split, I'd be like, that's a miracle. And then there's the other miracles, like the ones that happen in the Purim story, the hidden miracles. But actually, they're right there for us to see. You know, one of the interesting things about miracles is it depends if we think it's a miracle. There are the obvious miracles, and most people can agree on those, but we don't seem to have a lot of obvious miracles these days. The question is, do we have hidden miracles? Maybe.
Is that the miracle of existence itself, that we're still here?
Yeah. Is that a miracle? Probably, but it's pretty hidden. Because like existence and gratitude for existence usually isn't enough for us. You know, there's this prayer we're supposed to say every morning, Modeh ani lefanecha. I am grateful before you that I'm alive, that I have woken up. It's a really powerful prayer. And are we really appreciating the miracle of waking up day after day? Yeah, David.
Maybe you wanted to mention this, but I'm not sorry. I have a fun fact about open and closed revealed hidden miracles. So we have two holidays, Purim and Hanukkah, which are like, they're not in the Bible. They're not like, they're new things. They're rabbinical inventions. And they're both having to do with miracles, because the Al Hanisim is actually when we say, right, on Hanukkah and Purim, we say the Al Hanisim. So on both holidays, we have some kind of weird objects that we use to commemorate the holiday. So on Hanukkah, we have a sevivon, the dreidel, the spinning top, right? And on Purim, we have the ra'ashan. I have no idea how to call it in English. I have
the grogger, the noisemaker.
Yafeh. Okay. So the thing you like turn around and makes a lot of noise. So as you notice, it's both about like turning, like things are turning around, they're spinning. And if you see on Hanukkah, we spin the dreidel from above, right? You spin from above, but on Purim you spin from below. On Hanukkah, the miracle was revealed. The oil, which was for one day, it lasted for 8 days. It was pretty obvious that this is a miracle. But so we spin from above. But on Purim, when the miracle was hidden, all of this like plotting and so on, God is there, but it's hidden. We spin from below.
I love that. Thank you, David. And it's a great segue also into what Rabbi Shimshon Pinchas says, which is God's name isn't mentioned in the Megillah because the miracle is hidden. Because God's name can't be mentioned in the Megillah, because the point of this miracle is to be hidden. The point of this miracle is to be hidden. It's also, you know, what's the next after Purim is Friday, and on Sunday, we're already going to start thinking about the next Jewish holiday, which is Pesach, Passover. My wife has been like clearing out our cabinets for weeks. She like got mad at me because I bought a loaf of bread the other day. She's like, what are you doing buying bread? We don't need bread. Passover is only 5 weeks away. And so, you know, it's like, we're already getting ready for Passover and all this stuff. Passover is like all about God's miracles. There's like 17 non-hidden miracles, okay? The rivers turn to blood, like frogs everywhere, the splitting of the sea. Honestly, the 10 Commandments, which are still in somewhat way connected to this story, so many miracles in the Passover story. And in the Purim story, there are none. Because in the Purim story, it's reliant on human beings. And in fact, we're relying on one human being in particular, Esther, the one who's hidden. We're relying on Esther when in most other stories, we rely on God. And Rabbi Shimshon Pinchas, who's a 20th century Haredi rabbi, he said on Passover, God raised us over the entire world. But on Purim, we discover God in every nook and cranny of the natural world. Actually, God's hiddenness is what allows us to see God. Because if God had appeared in the Purim story, it would have been all about that. But actually, where are we finding God right now? We're finding God in Esther. We're finding God in Esther. Okay. So I'm going to skip the next 3 texts. Am I going to do that? No, I'm not. I'm going to include the next 3 texts, but I'm going to summarize them really quickly. I want to talk for a second about Amalek. Okay? Amalek. Okay? That's what we're supposed to do when we hear Amalek. Amalek is the enemy of the Jewish people. In Exodus 17, right after we cross the Red Sea, we have this huge miracle. Amalek comes and they attack us. And like, okay, the Israelites win, everything's okay. But like Amalek is the forever sworn enemy of the Jewish people, to the extent that in Deuteronomy 25, 17 through 20, we have this like absolutely weird, crazy passage that feels like something that could also be written today, probably. About Amalek. So maybe, Toma, maybe you can read from Deuteronomy 25, 17.
So from remember on?
Yeah.
Remember what Amalek did to you on your journey after you left Egypt. How, undeterred by fear of God, he surprised you on the march when you were famished and weary, and cut down all the stragglers in your rear. Therefore, when the Lord your God grants you safety from all your enemies around you in the land that the Lord your God has given you as a hereditary portion, you shall blot out of the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Do not forget.
You shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Do not forget. Do not forget to remember to forget them. Okay? It's like, I see a lot of laughing faces, which is like great, because we're like, yeah, we know this story. We know that. Never forget, and also forget about them. You know? And it's like we have these 2 things, we're holding these 2 things at once. And the fact is we're doing this in the Purim story as well, because we remember the Purim story, and who's the enemy of the Purim story? Haman, boo. And what do we do when we say Haman's name? We boo, we make noise, we shake the grogger, noisemaker, Rashans, we shake him, okay? Boo. Boo, down with Haman. And according to Jewish tradition, Haman is descended from Amalek. Actually, according to Jewish tradition, every bad enemy we've ever had is descended from Amalek. If someone does something bad to them, just like, it's Amalek again. They're at it again. But Haman, actually, there's like some textual evidence to imply maybe he is somehow descended from Amalek. Maybe, whatever, it doesn't matter. But like, Haman is Amalek, okay? Haman is Amalek. And it's a really, really weird phrase. You shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Do not forget. So this idea of memory and remembering was taken up by a woman named Rachel Stomel, who wrote an essay titled "May Her Memory Be a Revolution." Rachel Stomel is a Jewish activist, and she's talking about women who are the victims of domestic violence, which is a very serious issue and a very disturbing issue. And I don't mean to gloss over it by discussing it here, but I really want to focus on what she says in response to some people, which is after each name and story is read, this is names and stories of women who are killed by domestic violence. The crowd screams back, Yehi zichra mahapecha, may her memory be a revolution. Traditionally, when someone dies, Jewish people say, Yehi zichra baruch, may her memory be a blessing. But here, in the context of domestic violence, the customary words ring incongruous and out of place. It's not enough, these words. There's nothing blessed about the way these lives were ripped from us. Their memorial calls for identifying and confronting the deep-seated conditions that gave rise to their murders, deliberately dismantling them, and then generating active justice in their stead. Mahapecha, revolution. In the context of Jewish law, remembrance is not a reflexive, passive process directed inwards. Our sages teach that the way we fill the Torah's commandment to remember Shabbat, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat l'Kadsho, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, is by active declaration in the performance of the Kiddush, the Shabbat blessing over wine. We are commanded to remember the Amalekites' brutal massacre of our people, Zachor et Asher Asa Lecha Amalek, remember what Amalek did to you, through intentional, public, verbal affirmation, and by ridding the world of the evil they represent. Neither of these Torah commandments can be fulfilled by quiet contemplation. Memorialization must manifest through specific action. Judaism is a religion of action. Okay? Judaism is a religion of action. I have to, it's probably, I'm not going to say it's never going to happen, but probably not so many times in your Jewish lives are you going to be asked, do you believe in God? It might happen. It probably will happen from here and there from time to time. But I guarantee everyone here has been asked about their observance in some way. Oh, do you keep kosher? Do you keep Shabbat? Do you celebrate this holiday? We care deeply about what other Jews do. We care very deeply about what other Jews do and less deeply about what they believe. It's not to say both aren't important, but we really care what they do. Which is to say, what matters in this story is what Esther does. What does Esther do? Okay, there's this whole story. We skipped most of it. Mordechai, he's at the gate of the city, refuses to bow to Haman. Haman gets really mad, and he's like, I'm going to kill all the Jews. Like, that's just my response. Classic anti-Semitic response. I'm just going to kill all the Jews. This one Jew refused to bow. I'm going to kill all the Jews. And Mordecai's really upset. He's mourning. He's tearing his clothes. And Esther sees him. She's like, Mordecai, what's going on? And he's like, Haman's going to kill us. And then Mordecai's like, maybe this is why you're queen. Maybe this is why you're made queen. Maybe you were hidden enough. You know, Mordecai's sort of, I think, trying to cover his tracks. Like, oh, no, I didn't tell you to be hidden. I didn't tell you to be hidden. He did. We know he did. It's in the story. But suddenly Mordecai's backtracking. And then Esther, what does Esther do? She sends this answer back to Mordecai. Go assemble all the Jews who live in Shushan and fast in my behalf. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maidens will observe the same fast. Then I shall go to the king, though it is contrary to the law. And if I am to perish, I shall perish. V'chasher avadeti, ahavadeti. So Mordecai went about the city and did just as Esther had commanded him. Mordecai is sitting and he's wailing and he's upset and he's crying, and Esther says, we have to do something. We have to do something. And what is the thing that she does? She reveals herself. Queen Esther replied, this is later on. Esther concocts this whole plan. She fasts and then she goes to the king and she's like, hey, king, I want to throw you a party. And the king's like, great. I want to go to a party. She's like, I want Haman to come. He's like, great. Haman's going to come. And she throws this great party and the king's like, this is an amazing party. And she's like, come back tomorrow night. So he comes back tomorrow night and she's like, bring Haman. So he brings Haman. And in the second party, she's like, hey, by the way, Haman's trying to kill me. And this is where she tells him, she says, Queen Esther replied, if your majesty will do me the favor, and if it pleases your majesty, let my life be granted me as my wish, and my people as my request, for we have been sold, my people and I, to be destroyed, massacred and exterminated. I know you thought I was normal. I know you thought I was one of them, but actually I've been hiding the whole time. Had we only been sold as bondmen and bondwomen, I would have kept silent. I would have stayed hidden. I would have stayed hidden, but I don't have a choice. He wants to kill me. I can't stay hidden any longer. I have to do something. I have to do something. Because it's not enough to just remember who I am. It's not enough just to know my name is Hadassah. I have to do something. I can't just stand by and do nothing. There are these 4 mitzvot, 4 commandments in the Purim story, okay? So 3 of them are, mishloach manot, you should give gifts, and you have matanot lev yonim, you give charity to the poor, and you have to have a seudah, you have to eat, and maybe drink, maybe you wind up on the floor of Morashah. It happens to the best of us, okay? But there's one that I think is probably the one that we all know the best, which is, you have to read the Megillah. Actually, you have to read it twice. Okay, and the Shulchan Aruch, the Grand Halakha Codex, says one is obligated to read the Megillah at night and return and repeat it during the day. We have to read the Megillah. We have to tell this story of a woman who is told to hide who she is, and then she can't hide anymore. Actually, she could have kept hiding because she was hiding. Haman wasn't going to touch her. Let's be real. Haman wasn't going to kill Esther. Esther was hiding. Nobody knew. Nobody knew she was Jewish. She was going to kill all the Jews. He was going to kill Mordecai. But Esther could have kept hiding. But she chose not to hide. Instead, she chose to reveal herself. And there's this amazing thing about the word reveal, gilui, because actually the word Megillah shares the root of the word to reveal. When we read the Megillah, we are revealing the story. We are revealing ourselves and our own potential because we are all hidden. We are all Esther. And one of the things we're called to do on Purim is to reveal ourselves. And in fact, if we go back to the beginning of the story, in the very same time where it said Kish had been exiled from Jerusalem, in the group, we're learning about Mordecai's history. His ancestors were exiled from Jerusalem. And if we look at the Hebrew, Asher Hagla Miyushalayim, Im Ha'olah. He was exiled, but he was also revealed. I think we're constantly in a place of sort of being hidden and revealing. And it's only on Purim that we have the opportunity to reveal our true selves. So I'm going to reveal something here. Okay? I'm going to reveal something here that I haven't revealed yet publicly. Okay? You're getting it here first, which is, okay, it's Corona. I don't know if you guys know, there's this global pandemic. The barber shops are closed. So this bad haircut that I have is because I've been cutting my own hair basically for a year. I started in the first lockdown and then I was like, I don't need to pay 15 euro for a haircut. I'll just keep doing this. And something that I started doing about 4 months ago is I stopped cutting the corners of my hair and I started growing payas. This is the first time in my life I've done this. I don't come from a Hasidic background. This is not something that I've normally done. I'm revealing them here now for the first time. I'll just say my wife hates them, okay? And she normally is like not one to comment on how I look, but she absolutely hates them. Purim. I'm going to tuck them back for now, but on Purim, they're going to be out and flying because Purim is the day when we stop hiding. Purim is the day when we become who we are. Purim is the day when we allow our full selves to be there out in the open. Why? Because that's what Esther did. That's what Esther did. That's what this story is. Because when Esther revealed herself, she saved the people. She caused the miracle to happen, but actually it was God. It was through Esther's revealing that God is revealed. And actually, this gets into a deep Kabbalistic idea, which is God is revealed in this world when we choose to reveal God. There's a great story about Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who was a 20th century American rabbi, and he was on the, I've told this story on my podcast. So if you listen to my podcast, I apologize. For everybody on this call who doesn't listen to my podcast, which is everyone except David, this will be a new story. But there's a story about Abraham Joshua Heschel where a student came to interview for the Jewish Theological Seminary. It's the head seminary for the conservative movement of Judaism. And they were interviewing to enter the rabbinical school. And one of the teachers said, "Where do you see God?" And the guy said, "You know, I was walking along the sidewalk the other day, and there was a little crack in the pavement. And out of the crack came this little plant, this little green plant. And on this plant was this little yellow flower. And on the edges of this little yellow flower, I saw God." And Heschel immediately said back to him, "Hopefully by the time you're done here, you'll see God in the crack as well. You'll see God in the hole in the sidewalk. God is where we choose to reveal him, but we have to do it. Which means God is in you and in you and in you. In this hiddenness, where you feel hidden is waiting for you to reveal yourself." Now, I can't speak for anyone in their lives about how they're supposed to reveal themselves, unless you think, oh, this crazy rabbi with payas told me to do something. Like, that's not what's happening. But what I'm saying is you have the power, you and only you have the power to reveal yourself. To reveal yourself to yourself, to reveal yourself to others. And when you are in this process of revealing, what you're actually doing is bringing God into the world. Actually, God's already there. But by revealing yourself, you're revealing that truth. Okay, so I'll pause here and I'll say a huge thank you to VJS Nord, to the Verband Jüdische Studierendentum. How did I do? No, not so good. For having me. And I'm also like here to answer your questions. And I also have to say, like, argue with me, fight me, tell me I'm wrong, tell me I'm offensive. I hope I wasn't offensive. Actually, that was not my intent, but tell me I'm wrong. That's great. It's really been a pleasure. It's great to be here with all of you. If you are looking for an online Megillah reading tomorrow night, we're cooperating with EUJS and Yodesudeh, and also the Student Union in Bayern, which has another name that I can't pronounce. Mein Deutsch ist schlecht, Entschuldigung, at 8:30 p.m. So I'm sure you can message me for that information, or I'm sure you can message the team at VJS Nord. They also probably have access to that information. And if they don't, they can then message me. And if you're in Berlin and looking for a Megillah reading on Friday, unfortunately, the ice cream truck didn't work, but we do have a limousine, and we will be going around the city in a limousine reading Megillah, okay? And we will have challah, and we will have mishloach manot, and we will maybe even have tequila, but please get home safely. And yeah, it should be a really fun holiday. And if you follow me on Instagram, my payas will be flying. So thank you everybody for having me. And thank you for creating such a really beautiful space to do this. So thank you, everybody.
Jeremy, I got one question. Oh, sorry, Jonas.
No, actually, I was just applauding because it was like a great shiur as always. So yeah, go ahead, ask your question.
Okay, I thought about your question about hiding and why is God hidden, or why is he hiding himself? And I asked myself the question, why is it important to know if he's hidden or not? Because like, I don't know, it always depends on the person whether you believe in God or not. But if you do believe in God, you know that he's there. So what's the point of asking yourself the question? You know he's gonna you know he's going to follow the right path, right?
If you know God is there, God isn't hidden.
Ah, okay.
That's my answer, which maybe isn't a great answer, but I think like God is hidden in the Purim story. No one's invoking God's name in the Purim story. No one's saying, God, help us. God isn't there. God is hidden. God isn't being brought up. People aren't talking, I believe that God is there. I know God is there. God being hidden means we're not seeing God. But I think what you're asking is a really profound question. It doesn't, to be hidden, like I'm also there when I'm hidden. All of you who are hidden, you're there. Even if you're playing hide and go seek, you're there, but no one's seeing you. To be hidden doesn't mean you're not there. It means no one's seeing you. And if I'm not seeing God, that's a problem. Also, I'm like super happy, like replace God with like version of oneness. Totally cool. That's great. Bring it on. Okay. But if I'm not seeing the universality of the universe, if I'm not seeing the interconnectedness, if I'm not seeing something beyond my reality, then I'm missing something. Cool. Who else wants to fight?
I have another question, actually. Like legit, there's no
Thank you,
reason.
Ariel. Thank you. Sorry.
There's no reason after like Esther's big reveal to like hide herself again. So why, until this day, Jews all over the world know Hadassah by Esther, even after she revealed herself to Achashverosh?
Great question. That's a great question. I don't have an answer to that question. I think like we know people by names and that's what we call them. You know? Like, no, David's shaking his head. He doesn't like it. Give it to me, David. What's the answer?
I think if Esther would not be Esther, your whole shiur would not be here. Right? I mean, like, we do all this thing about hiding and revealing and all the spiel because her name is Esther.
Mm-hmm.
And even though maybe her name changed or, you know, people knew her by a different name, in history, her name is Esther.
I think that's right. I like David's answer. That was the answer I was going to give. So thank
But
you,
actually,
David.
it's kind of sad because like till this day she's like known by the name that was like she was forced to take. I think it's kind of sad story, but yeah, it is what it is.
How would you tell the story otherwise if she wouldn't be called Esther? Because if the other name would appear the whole time, then everybody would know she's Jewish in the story. So I think it would also make a really bad story if she would be Esther.
Yeah, true, but I think
it's like no storyline, no cliffhanger.
But I think it's like so weird that everybody just knows her by that name, even though it really wasn't her name, you know.
Maybe if Esther means hidden, then that's more true to who she was or her story than her actual name.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting. When I many years ago I joined the Peace Corps, and I lived, which is a volunteer program in the United States, and I lived in Ukraine, and I lived in a small Ukrainian village. And I thought about changing my name. I thought about going by Yaakov. It was like this thing that was in me, and I was like, maybe I'll just change my name. Nobody knows who I am. But like they got a form that said my name was Jeremy, and I like was like, oh no, I want to go by Yaakov. They're like, but your name is Jeremy. Like, что это, Боже? Ну что ты, Jeremy? Нет. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm Jeremy. But then they asked me what my father's name was, and my father's English name is Neil, but his Hebrew name is Natan. And I said, oh, his name is Natan. And so for 2.5 years, I lived in a Ukrainian village, and I was known as Jeremy Natanovich. And like mostly just as Natanovich. Like if you've ever been in a Ukrainian village, you know the patronymical name is like a big part of the culture. And I was just known as Natanovich to like by like the people. And that was like really powerful to me. That there I'm known as Natanovich, but nowhere else. Nowhere else. Sometimes we're known as certain things because that's the way we need to be known to tell the story. And when I tell the story of my time in Ukraine, and when they tell the story, they need people to say, this crazy American Jew, Natanovich, he was here. It was crazy. It was great. I hope they say it was great. But that's how they need to tell the story. For them, Jeremy isn't as interesting as Natanovich.
I want to connect the things you said with something Michael Hatton, my teacher, said that Pesach was kind of the moment when, you know, God's agency was 100%, and the humans were just kind of the executors, right? Moses did the whole, right? But it was God's story. God did all the miracles. But in Purim, it was God isn't there, and the miracle was brought about by humans. The agency was with us humans, and I think that's ultimately the message. Like God isn't hiding, and it's about us to do the action and bring about the miracles.
Amen. It sounds like I stole this entire class from Michael Hatton, which is almost certainly true, because good rabbis borrow from other rabbis, and great rabbis steal from other rabbis. So everything I know I got from my teachers, and Michael Hatton was once my teacher, so I'm sure I heard that class from Michael. Cool. Any other questions? Maybe we have time for one more.
Maybe not really a question, but more like a statement. you were talking about like hidden miracles, and I think you can also see that really clearly in the story of Esther, maybe like a hidden miracle which we all like experience and live is the miracle of knowing people and knowing how these people infect you and kind of guide you, make you the person you are, kind of. So I don't know.
Yeah. The miracle of being known, the miracle of experiencing love and friendship, the miracle of being seen even for a moment. I mean, I think there's such a powerful thing. Like, there's miracles all around us. We just can't see them. Existence is a miracle. Waking up in the morning is a miracle. There are so many miracles, but it's like really hard. It's really hard because there's also like a lot of pain and like a lot of difficulty. And sometimes it's easier to be hidden, because actually to reveal ourselves is to force us to confront miracles and to wait for miracles and to hope for miracles. Like, it's scary to reveal yourself. It's a lot easier to keep the payas tucked in back behind the ears. I could only do it for like 5 seconds. Did you see that? I like brought him out and then I was like, go back in. It's scary. It's scary. It's scary to love. Loving something is really scary. But I think a part of what this holiday is like, let it out. Just let whoever you are fly. And like, that's the pathway to seeing miracles. The more true you are to yourself, the more you'll see miracles all around you. I think that's what the story of Esther is about. But also, I know almost nothing. So like, I'm probably wrong. So like, both of those are true at the same time. You know, there's this great story, I'll end here, but there's this great story that maybe you've heard of Reb Simcha Bunim of Heschel, that he used to always walk around carrying 2 notes in his pocket. And in one pocket, he had a note that said, I am but the dust of the earth. I am nothing. I am nothing. And in the other pocket, he held a note that said, the world was created for my sake. Within me lies the potential for an entire universe. At the same time, I have to both feel my nothingness and feel my everythingness. I'm totally unimportant, and I'm the most important being in the universe. Hold both of those at the same time, all the time, you'll be fine. Cool. I think let's pause there, because I only have 3 more minutes until I have to put the pacifier back into the baby every time she screams. So yeah, thank you everybody for having me. This was really lovely. Thank you, Giannis. Yeah, and I'll see you all soon. Hopefully like in person, that would be great. That would be great to see people's faces. It's just lovely to be here with everybody. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy, for being here tonight. It was inspiring as always, and thanks to everybody for joining in tonight. And I hope you all have an easy fast tomorrow, and Purim Sameach, I would say, and cheers. And I hope you all have a great night, and we'll see each other soon.
Amazing. Purim Sameach, and I also threw my email in the chat if anyone wants to reach out.
Thanks, Jeremy.